How,
How are you?
yeah, enjoying this sunny weather.
Yes, yes, it is pretty amazing. I managed to get out for a run early in the morning before it got too hot.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you got air conditioning?
No, but the office is freezing, so we may as well do. It's just
Oh. Yeah, my house is freezing. It's one of those houses, I don't know why. Yeah.
yeah, if you're
Um,
not in the sun,
we
if you're
have to
not,
open the windows to let the warm air in.
I know, yeah, I tried that first thing, but it was too early this morning and then didn't bother again.
Oh, well. So how is training?
Good, it's actually going, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, you said you got some plans coming up.
got some things in the works. Yeah, a trip to Wales, which I'm not allowed to disclose. Yeah, but that'll be fun, and I can't wait to talk about it once it's happened.
Okay.
And yeah, and now I'm supporting my friend on the South Downs Way 100, and I
Hmm.
read that you can support for the last 50 miles, and she said yes, please for the last 50 miles.
Did you offer to run 50 miles with her?
I said that we could have like you can have a pacer for from halfway. Do you
Mm.
want me to come down? She's like, yeah, oh, that'd be great because then I only have to get halfway and then you can run the rest of it with me.
Okay.
Yeah, so
You get a medal?
I no, but I don't actually have to pay, which seems
No.
quite quite nice. I get to run like half of the race
Yeah.
under race
You
conditions
shouldn't, of course you shouldn't pay. Why would you pay?
because I get to run like 50 miles on a marked course with aid stations for free.
Well, okay. It's marked anyway because it's a national trail.
Yeah, true.
And yeah, I suppose the aid stations are there, but
I don't know.
um
It seems like a win to me.
have you been down there?
I've never been on the South Downs Way. No.
Okay. Oh, I was down there this weekend actually, and it is lovely.
Hmm.
You will skip along. It's very runnable. It's lovely. It's flowing. Yeah,
Nice. Those
it's
are all the words I want to hear.
it's an amazing ripple in the geography of England. Actually, you'll notice it. Where are you joining her? Where can you
Oh, it's like,
remember? I think it's the last 50, isn't it? Because it's what I did.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, so I'm not sure if you'll see it or not, but I don't know if you go down the M23 from the M25 to get to the start, but you will just see it's rolling hills, and ahead of you you'll just see what looks like a tidal wave,
right.
and that's the South Downs, and it's just a really sort of unique, and you're like, oh, okay, and then you go up, and then you go down the other side to the coast.
Yeah, Storrington. It is on just near Washington. Washington, near Brighton. I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well,
The
yeah.
checkpoint is 50.1 miles anyway.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So you'll go down the M23. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice, yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be
Yeah.
fun.
That's
Uh,
good training for the race to the Stones, right? A month later.
yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you're doing Race to Stones in one go, or is it only
Yeah.
2 days? Yeah.
Yeah. One go. Yeah. The non-stop.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I feel
Um,
like as long as it feels a little bit close, like I might be jeopardizing it a tiny bit, but I'm not
what
going to be pushing super fast on this 50
you're gonna have a very slow and moany runner, so you will be, yeah. You're
Yeah.
not exactly. You're going to be doing a lot of walking.
Okay. So it's just good time on feet then, isn't it?
Sorry, I'm being very rude. Your friend might well be in the
Oh,
top three, in which case, no, you'll be doing 8 minute miles the whole time.
she's a great runner. I hope we're not doing 8 minute miles.
Yeah, I mean, what does she have a goal for it?
I mean, there's a buckle for the 24 to 30 hour stretch.
Okay.
And I've said that she should definitely be going for that at the very
Okay.
least.
Okay. Oh well, yeah. No, I mean, yes, there should be, yeah, you shouldn't be,
Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to be damaging yourself um physically.
No.
You'll just get tired, I imagine. So well, that is exciting. Yeah, and then race to start. How far? 4 weeks.
4 weeks after, yeah.
Weeks after. Yeah, you should be all right. Yeah. Are you are
Yeah.
you are you planning a top three for that one?
Well, not top three, but I would like to get a good time at least.
Yeah.
I remember looking at the times thinking, yeah, maybe I could win that race, but I'm not in the shape to do that well.
Is it 100K?
100K, yeah.
Yeah, it's only 10 miles more. Yeah, it's a nice little warm-up run for you.
Exactly. Yeah. Some could say it's perfect training.
Yeah. I'm not, yeah, I don't know. Well, in fact, I was talking to our resident coach Nick earlier today, and we're going to get him on the podcast.
Nice.
And so we'll have to yeah, level such questions at him.
Grill him for advice.
Yeah.
See how doomed I am.
I think yeah, yeah. There's so many. I think that yeah, that is it's such a big question that so many people have. How soon should I
Mm.
return to running, and when can I do the next race?
Mm.
Because that was so awesome. I want to get back straight back into it. So it'd be interesting to see what his thoughts are on that.
I think that the boring answer is it varies from runner to
Well,
runner.
yes. Yeah, but there's got to be a minimum term for everyone.
Yeah, that's what we want.
And then it sort of lengthens depending on how fit and seasoned you are and
And the
whatever.
answer is 4 weeks.
Yeah, but you can't race and not have not run at all or not done any like
Yeah,
you have to have done some sort of quality sessions, not just bimble, I would
yeah,
have thought. She
yeah.
says, yeah, I'm not going to I'm not an expert.
Yeah,
And
that was the right answers.
do you want to tell us about your new little project? Or is it rather
Oh,
your wife's?
right. It's more Jen's to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, race around the peaks. It was something we'd spoken about for a little while. Yeah, it's picking up pace quite nicely, but there didn't seem to be a central hub
Mm,
to view all Peak District races in one place. Whether, and especially when it came to the changes of terrain, like you can look up fell races easily on Fell Runner for anywhere in the UK.
yeah.
Trail races, and you can find in different like spots throughout the internet, road races as well, and ultras, but all in one place, no. So,
Mm,
and especially road races for the Peak District are quite rare and they can
yeah.
be quite a lot of fun. So those it's nice to be able to advertise those as well.
So
But
so do you have a website then listing all these, or is it just on social media?
it's just on social media at the moment, but
Mm.
I think we'll probably have to get a website at some point.
Mm. You're going to start competing against me, aren't you?
And we can't know because Run Ultra is everywhere. I know Jen was saying we could do it for different parts of the UK, and then the world is like, no, we can't do the world because that's Run Ultra.
Ah, yes, but but we are only ultras, so everything else is fine.
Everything else would be the biggest website in the whole world. There's no
For
way.
everything else.
Yeah,
Biggest website in the whole world for the Peak District races.
exactly. And if you want to
No.
get free race entries, then that's fine.
Well, you should contact the race directors and say, hey, look at what we're doing for you for nothing. Maybe
Exactly.
you might like to give us a place and we can give it away as a raffle or
And
something
I
like
can tell
that.
you how great your race is, which it probably is because it's in the Peak District.
Yeah, exactly. It's automatically awesome.
Yes, it is. And that's what people will now be able to hear everything they need to about it on there.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I think it's a nice community service.
It is. Yeah, it's just a good project for Jen because she gets so bored
Mm.
doing, she's loved compiling all of this stuff. So, yeah, she's
Oh,
already
good.
got a bunch of reels lined up that I have to do.
Oh, why do you have to do them?
I don't know. Maybe, I don't think she likes the camera.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Just
Well,
shoves.
you are the star on your own
I am.
profile, so yeah, it makes sense to
This is true.
yeah.
The TV personality.
yeah, this is it. The head announcer of the Tura Awards.
Exactly. Yeah, the head announcer. I think Sam would have something to say about that.
Yeah. In fact, we need to start thinking about that for this year, don't we?
I have it on a to-do list to
Yeah. I think Sam is the one we need to rag a bit. Um,
yeah, stay busy.
um, but yeah, well, just in case anyone who's listening it doesn't know what we're talking about, this is the Trail and Ultra Running Awards, the first and the only, which was held this year, put together very quickly by us, in association with Ultra Running Sam and Robin's Running Roundup,
Robin's running roundup, which yeah, just for the UK, just for the UK.
just for the UK.
We
Yes,
had an
yes.
international category, didn't we?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I think next December, because we put it off a bit, didn't we, to January,
Mm,
um, mainly because we decided to do it in a week,
yeah,
the week before Christmas as well, which was like maybe not one of our best ideas.
no,
But
probably not. But I'm really glad that we did it, though.
yeah, 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 we got it out there.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think we do it this year, with a little bit more preparation. Um,
it'd be a bit more accurate based on the public's views and public votes.
Yes. Yes,
And
I think
to our
there was a
suggested.
lot to learn from that as well, wasn't there, that we can take forward and improve going forward.
Speaking of a lot to learn, I've been learning a lot about these world marathon things that we're talking to Ted Jackson about today. I've been
Ah,
in search of,
yes.
he does the set, one of the options is 7 marathons, 7 continents in 7 days.
Yes.
And it prompted me
Yes.
to start Googling as to why the Arctic isn't a continent and why the Antarctica is. I've gone down a bit of a rabbit hole there, trying to.
It is amazing actually yeah, talking to him. Um um he's um really interesting. I mean his sort of expertise is the extreme stuff, the extreme cold, extreme heat. So I think he'll have some great tips for us. Um, but yeah, I mean, their races. I mean, he was at the London Marathon Expo. And out of curiosity, I asked him, are you busy there? I mean, I would imagine people just running the London Marathon would be quite shocked at what you're offering.
Mm.
And he said, no, no, it's yeah, no, it's very popular.
Oh,
Um, um, I'm just trying to
it's not
bring up
cheap,
his website actually. No, well, again, and this is, yeah.
but
Um,
it's more of it. Well, from I'm sure we'll get more detail from him, but from my perspective, it looks like you're paying for a big fancy holiday with a race in the middle, which is
yes, I think this is it because you go on the boat, don't you?
yeah,
Um, and that is, I mean, yeah, it is quite amazing, to think about it. He was saying that the sort of the logistics are that he has to go out ahead of time, or he used to have to go out ahead of time, um, but now he can't. They're not. They used to be able to fly there, and there would
right,
be these sort of special runways built into the ice,
that's cool.
and then they would get it all ready and set up and wait for the ship to turn up. But I think that's changed now. But
Also, now does he have to sit on the nice fancy ship for a few days until
now
the
he has to. Yes, yeah, yeah. Bummer.
what a chore.
I mean, I would love to do. I think that would be one of the. Um, that would be if I could do any extreme race. That would be one of the ones I would love to do actually.
You go for cold.
On the yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, the seven continents. Um, I can't remember. He gave me a specific figure that they have in between
Mm.
resting, and it's like 7 hours or something
It
between
can't be a lot.
all the traveling and as well as the running and the um I mean, it's
Yeah.
that is a test of endurance, if nothing else.
Just getting from one continent to the next in time to do
Yeah.
these is difficult in itself. Never mind all the little travel in between to even just get to the race.
He's coming now. Yeah, I think he starts. I think they start in South America, and I didn't realize this, but then you can go to Antarctica,
They
and then
start
you
in
can.
Antarctica. Yeah.
Oh, they start in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Because then I was like, well, surely you'd go to South America next, and he was like, no, we go to South Africa
South
next.
Africa, and then they go east.
Yeah, and then they end in South
No.
America. But yeah,
Yeah.
so he's coming. We will have to ask all these logistical questions.
Well,
Um, but yeah, it's
it's amazing. It is kind of the trip of a lifetime, isn't it? Obviously, it's very difficult to run 7 marathons in 7 days, but to visit all of these places just
yeah,
else is pretty incredible.
the sheer travel involved,
Mm,
um, which some people might huff and puff about.
yeah,
Um,
it would.
but I don't know if you're I don't know if you were handed that on a plate, would you turn it down?
No,
No, I'm not big enough to do
no,
that.
I'm not. No, I'd love to say that I would, but no, I'd snap your hand off to go and do something like that, I'm afraid.
Yeah. But gosh, yeah. Training and just imagine that actually the change in time zones as well.
Mm.
Actually, anyway, here's Ted. We're yeah, we've run ourselves to a stop because we simply don't know the answer to all these. How the hell does it all work? Um,
Hello.
hello.
Oh,
Let's see if I can get stuff going.
Yeah.
Start. Unbelievable. I'm such an idiot. Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I
Ted, this is
am.
Robin. Robin, this is Ted.
Hi, Robin. Nice to meet you.
you too.
No, we've actually literally just talked ourselves to a halt talking about the seven marathons, seven continents. Just
Ah,
just as we're just like, how?
I've been talking about it all week.
Yes, of course. Yes. Well, I said you were at the Marathon Expo, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, which is a marathon in itself, just to get that done.
Yeah, I bet.
I find that harder than doing the events.
Yeah. And did you get many sign-ups?
We don't really get sign-ups on the day. I mean, we've certainly had some very interesting conversations, and
Hmm.
to be honest, that's one that it kind of sells out every year anyway. So it's more of an awareness campaign, and the amount of people that stop and just go,
Yeah, exactly.
and you just see the cogs whirring, and they're not kind of quite work it out, and then us explaining it, and I'm going, oh.
How long have you been involved in it?
Well, I did the marathon, the World Marathon Challenge back in 2015 as a competitor.
Okay.
And we did the first one, which was
Ah, cool.
kind of crazy. In those days, we did it on scheduled flights. Now we do it rather differently. But yeah, yeah. So a while.
Yes. Yes.
How has it changed from then to how you do it now?
Well, now what we do is, well, one, the route has changed, so we kind of go the other way around the world. Some people immediately go, "Ah, that's so you can fit it in 7 days," and we're like, "No, it doesn't really work like that. It's just easier logistically. We don't sort of cheat it by cheating time zones or anything like that. We start the clock once we get to once we start the marathon in Antarctica, and we need to. The aim is to finish in under 168 hours. So, we're not looking at time zones or anything. We go from race time, and we do it that way. This year, we managed to get it done in 5 days and 20 hours.
Oh, you're kidding.
But
Oh,
yeah,
really? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So
So
sort of
it's
breaking all the records and.
ah.
Why was it so much shorter?
Well, it was. I mean, it was. I mean, obviously, to get it done in under 7 days is tricky, and kind of depend. I mean, when we did it on scheduled flights, we did it in sort of well under seven. I can't remember exactly the time I took. Let's say it was 6 days. I probably had 10 hours to spare, or more than 6 days something.
Mm,
So we managed to do it now. Is we've got once we land back in South Africa, having done our Antarctic marathon. We then board our own chartered private plane, a 757, which then takes us around the rest of the world. Now, obviously, it's still world plane travel, and you have to get slots, and you have to fit time slots, and you have to make sure that you can, there's no, if there's bad weather or there's something that
mm.
happens or force majeure or something like that, it's
Yeah,
out
of
of our
course.
hands. But a lot of my job personally is crowd management and crowd control. So getting the 60 competitors off the course to the airport, checked in, not wandering off for McDonald's or Burger King, or if they are, knowing that they've got to get in a certain time. And once they're on the plane, sitting down and getting on with it so that we don't miss our slot is really important. So that's kind of stressful but fun and exciting, and they probably hate me and love me in equal measure at the end of it.
Does
Love
it
me
mean
for
you're good at herding cats?
I am a cat herder. I suppose that comes from a previous career working in schools.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's a natural progression.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm loud. I've got an opera singer's voice, so just getting everyone's
They can
attention is.
hear you across the airport lounge.
There have been many a time when the call has gone out with Ness and Dorma. They go, we must be somewhere.
So the first one's in Antarctica. So let's say I registered and someone from Los Angeles registered as well. Do you have to pay for your own flights to get to Antarctica to start the journey?
Yeah, so the World Marathon Challenge, we meet in South Africa. So we meet in Cape Town. So we
Right.
meet all the competitors and we have a race briefing a couple of days before the event starts, where we meet in Cape Town to go through all of the logistics with them. And then when the weather conditions are right, the Antarctic Logistics Company say, right, we need to be ready to leave at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning, and we put the call out to the rest of the competitors, let them know what's going on. So competitors have to get themselves to Cape Town.
Right.
So
Okay.
once they've got to Cape Town, they're ours, and once they get to Miami, they're theirs. Well, obviously they will look after them during the marathon, but once the marathon's finished,
Yeah.
they tend to make their own way. You know, they all get scooped up by various supporters and family members and things like that, and head off for a bit of R&R,
Nice.
Wow.
which I personally did myself this time as well. It's nicely located for the Florida Keys.
Yes, yes, a nice warm place to relax and
Mm.
recuperate. But one of the other races you look after is the Arctic Marathon, which is a standalone race, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we have a couple actually in extreme conditions. So we've got the North Pole Marathon,
Okay.
which is a standalone race, and we have the Antarctic Ice Marathon and the Antarctic Ice Ultra. So
Okay.
I'm very lucky. I mean, I go to Antarctica 3 times a year. So
Wow.
Antarctica in itself is, I find, one of the most magical places on Earth.
Mm.
It's jaw-dropping. I get emotional every time I go there. You know, it's just flying in above it and flying in and landing on the continent is just, you just think, wow. And I've read a lot of the books. I've read a lot of the books about the Arctic explorers, particularly one called An Unsung Hero, which is a biography of Thomas Crean, who was on Shackleton and Scott's expeditions, and he saved many, many lives. This chap, he
Oh,
was in the
wow.
British Army. He was an Irishman who was just, I mean, mythical,
Mm.
mythical strength and endurance and resilience to extreme conditions. I mean, in a way, you know, some of what we do is it's not playing because I don't want to undermine what people do because it's extreme and it's epic, but it's not the battle of life and death that those guys
No.
went through.
Just in terms of the technology and the clothing and the
Hmm.
all of that. I mean, they're going out there doing it in tweed jackets and woolen scarves. I mean,
Absolutely. And instead of freeze-dried meals, they're eating the dogs.
yeah,
So
yeah. God, joy. So tell me about the ultra.
the Antarctic Ultra is an event that we started last year and ran for the first time last year. Again, that's one where we go to two different bases in Antarctica. So that's another one that we leave from South Africa, and we fly from South Africa and land down on Antarctica.
Mm.
And actually, what we've done, we're now extending that trip to more of a sort of 4 or 5 day trip so that people can spend more time on the ice and do a little bit of it exploring as well as their ultra. We run all sorts of distances from we do a marathon distance, so not strictly ultra,
Yeah.
but then after that, people can do a 50 miler, they can do 100 Ks, they can do 24-hour races. So last year we had two guys from the States, Paul and Rob, Paul Johnson and Rob Sembiante, who actually broke the Antarctic record for 100 miles, and they did that in 23 hours. Can't remember the exact timings,
Wow.
but around 23 hours for 100 miles in pretty brutal conditions. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
what are the conditions
they
generally?
can be ever changing. I mean, that's, I suppose, the
Mm.
beauty of the continent. I mean, I've been very lucky many times down there where I've just experienced that sort of, I think they call it in skiing, bluebird. It's kind of just the beautiful blue skies and sunshine, and 24 hours a day. So it's
Mm.
not it's
Yes.
not just a few hours of sunshine. It's just gorgeous for 24 hours. And you think, you never, if you're only there for 2 or 3 days, it's remarkable how you don't get tired. I mean, your body just doesn't know to get tired yet. So, with that lack of sort of, with the sun not going down, I'm sure this affects people in the, far north and far south, deep far south, having to be pretty disciplined with, closing the blinds and going to sleep at
Mm.
night, things like
Mm.
that, because it's the temptation to stay up all night is very strong.
That's got
Because
to
you
be
think,
good
well, it's still sunny.
for the 24-hour race. That's got to be really good mentally.
I think it was a
Yeah.
bonus. Strangely enough, so where we are for the 24-hour race, at that time of year, the sun just slightly dips behind. There's a mountain in the distance, and the sun dips behind it for a few hours, and the temperature drops. It's still very much light. I mean, it's totally daylight, but
Mm.
once the sun drops behind that, it certainly got much colder. And when the sun came back out from behind that mountain, I've got video footage of those guys just whooping and cheering as the sun came out again. And I don't know how many miles they had left to go, but they were very happy.
What's the temperature range?
It, uh, Now, the problem is I've been talking all week to Americans, and then trying to work out the conversion between American temperatures, and it's much easier when we've been at the North Pole in the spring and it's minus 40, because minus 40 is minus 40 either way.
Right.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yes, so
Okay.
that I find that much easier. That's the best temperature to say, but actually in
Okay.
Antarctica when we're there, it's not minus 40. It can be. Normally, I would say somewhere ranging around -5 to -10 in
Okay.
our
Yeah.
whatever,
And
zero being freezing.
yes. Yeah.
And then it all depends on the wind.
Yeah.
So on a calm day, -5 with the sun shining is glorious conditions. Near perfect running conditions, I would say, in Antarctica. And because once you've warmed up, you can pretty much be there in a t-shirt. The minute that wind just has to come up a couple of meters per second, and it bites straight through them. Bite really does come straight through you, and it's bad enough for the athletes, but for those of us who are looking after the race, when you're standing out there for 24 hours, it's important to have the right clothing.
Mm. I mean, we'll get to the gear in a second, but
Yeah.
what's the terrain like? I mean, are they? I'm imagining a sort of flat, snowy plateau with a mountain range in the distance.
Yeah, I mean, and just the most beautiful flat, snowy terrain with mountain ranges in the distance that you just can't describe because you've never seen anything like it in Europe or in a ski resort. Or, I mean, those who are maybe more well-traveled, I've not been to Nepal, I've not seen the Himalayas, but they're mountains, but then with these just miles of plateau. Um, yes, but not flat. I mean, sort of. So for the ultra course, that was actually quite a hill. I can't remember the distance of the loop that we had to take, but we had to run it round a loop. We have to watch out for competitor safety down there in that environment, so we need to be able to look after them. But
Yeah.
let's say it's a 10K loop.
Hmm.
Um, on that loop, I can't remember. I'm also not a stat man, so when it comes to elevation per race, but it's on a hill.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
come they come back up that hill swearing.
Okay. Oh,
They're
cool.
perfectly fine going down it, but when they come back up to base, that's a long hill.
Can we get onto the gear? Like what sort of trainers can people wear? Do they need to have sort of spikes? Yes.
I,
So
I personally have only ever known that we've needed to wear trail running shoes, decent trail running shoes. There are a couple of patches on the course, but you can see them quite clearly where there's blue ice. And you can avoid the blue ice by not going on the blue bits. If you tread on the blue bits without spikes, it gets hairy. So, and the wind during the course of an event can uncover blue ice. But
right.
we groom the course with skidoos and snowmobiles. It
Mm.
doesn't make that much difference. It can still be pretty soft underfoot. But we try and groom it so that they're not having to run on blue ice. I know there are other races which are entirely on ice, like a frozen lake,
Mm.
Lake Baikal, I think it is.
Yeah.
So and there you would definitely need those tiny little tungsten spikes that you can get. There's no harm in having the spikes. It's not going to affect your running on the soft snow. And if you did hit the hard snow, then great, you're going to be more stable. But certainly, not required are things like snowshoes.
Okay. That's good.
No.
Yeah, yeah, I've done when I first went to the North Pole in 2008, we did that marathon, and I'd say the majority of the competitors certainly started off with snowshoes, or some kind of racing snowshoe. They're smaller than the big tennis racket things that maybe we picture in our minds when we think snowshoes. But still, they're enough to change your gait enough to really have a massive impact over 26 miles at least anyway.
Is that because the snow is softer up there? Is it
I
harder than?
mean, we don't use them anymore, and actually it is softer, but once you've broken through that crust, it's much of a muchness as to whether it's harder or easier with or without them. And
Okay.
I would say it's easier without them, and making do with going. It's not like snow you can describe because it's not like snow you normally encounter. It is very light. It starts off with a crust at the North Pole, and then after one lap, that crust has broken into icing sugar, and then it's very dry. So it's like you can't make snowballs with it. It doesn't stick together. It's very like the Marathon des Sables, but when you hit the dunes, so pretty unpleasant.
Oh, interesting. And what about, so, I mean, just in terms of running, that what you wear when you're running and how you manage yourself with sweating, staying
Hmm.
at that sort of comfortable body temperature
Yeah.
as you're running. I mean, do they have to carry stuff with them? I mean, is the mandatory kit ferocious?
One of the beauties of having laps and loops on a course is that we have aid stations every 5K. So we can keep bulkier clothing. They don't need to take bulkier clothing with them. If they're getting cold, they're not cold for that long. And
Mhm.
we're able to go and help people and look out for people in trouble. Most of the time, it's a thin layering system, and we encourage people to start cold.
Yeah.
So, however cold you can handle really to start with, because you will soon warm up. I mean, me especially, I'm a bit of a Clydesdale or a cart horse division. So the minute the first 100 meters, I'm up to full temperature and I'm already unzipping everything and getting too hot, even in -20. So the aim is to not sweat, if you can. If you start sweating, it's all right, but it's only a problem. It's a problem when you stop, or it's a problem when you turn into the wind. Turning into the wind, you can have the wind at your back and not realize there's any wind because you're not really feeling the benefit. You don't realize it's helping you. You don't realize that it's actually cold because it's on your back. And you turn into this thing like, oh my goodness, this is fresh. And that has been the case on a number of our races. So they're all fine. Everything's unzipped. We're getting too hot. You turn around, it's like, whoa, okay. I mean, merino wool base layer or something like that, and maybe a fleece layer on top of that, and then a windproof shell.
Yeah.
But quite often these windproof shells, if it's not windy, they're getting rid of that or opening it up completely, or losing the fleece, just having merino base layer. And there are plenty of people who I've seen do some of these events because they're going for it and they keep on going for it. That boiler is keep on going and it keeps them warm. It's when they stop that we've got to make sure we look after them.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, they do say be bold, go cold, don't they?
Well, sorry, be bold, go cold.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like people at the start on Sunday for London. I don't think anyone was cold at the start, but there's still slightly chilly mornings. But wow, I mean, it was hot.
It was, and so many people. It was not PB territory, was it, in Manchester or London on Sunday?
No, no, I didn't see too much about Manchester, but it was absolutely roasting down in London. And it's not PB territory. It makes for a great event, I think, for spectators and having people on the course. I heard that it slowed people down. I think it slowed people down a lot, and it was a world record number of finishers, I think, but that also meant that people were going slower, and it frustrated people who were wanting to go a bit faster. So it was visibly crowded, and the crowds never really thinned out for people,
I heard this just today. I was talking to Nick, our sort of resident coach, who, he was going for a time in London, and it was too crowded.
Yeah. I mean, I went and watched it in various places as well, and went to Canary Wharf, and then went to Embankment, and just watching even people coming in at 5.5, 6 hours, and it was no thinner at the end than it was at the beginning, really.
Yeah. I think it's
a lot
hard.
of people. I mean, it's very unlike most of our events. We have 60 people.
Yeah.
It's a bit different.
That's civilized. Yeah. It's 60. If you found 60s, you're
60's kind of it certainly works for when we're going somewhere like Antarctica, because that's our kind of there's a limit, and there's a limit to how many people you can take to Antarctica at one time as part of sort of Antarctic treaty. But there's not only just the sort of political Antarctic treaty, but there's also an Antarctic sort of tourism treaty that tour companies and people will stick to in terms of the number of people that you can take at any one time, so that we can try and keep it as magical and as pristine as it is. I mean, it really is a place where I mean, obviously we brief everyone and everyone has this briefing about how you look after the continent, but no, what you wouldn't dream of even the tiny little tear off bit off the top of a gel wrapper. You're going to make sure that gets stored and stashed and put away. People don't even, if you spilled your energy drink, you're not water, but your energy drink on the ground, and your energy drink is slightly reddish or whatever, that will get cleared up and scooped up and dealt with. They're that fastidious about it, which is great.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
It's really good to see, and everyone really respects it.
Yeah.
Literally, they take everything off the continent. So when you go for a pee, when you go for The rest, everything goes, everything gets taken.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. And I mean, I've been north, I've been to Svalbard,
Mhm.
but I can imagine somewhere like Antarctica must be even more the feeling of the remoteness and the
Yeah.
almost the hostility as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, you get that feeling of that when you're flying in and when you're flying over, because you're flying over such a vast expanse of whiteness
Mm.
and these sort of beautiful peaks sticking up through it. But there is nothing, there aren't very many people in Antarctica who are going to come and help.
No.
So you kind of get that feeling of desolation, that's the fun part, right? I mean, for me, that certainly is, and I think
Mm.
that's what people are looking for. We take doctors with us, and the camps have camp hospitals, a tent or a container, that's set up and is relatively well equipped. But getting instant help is not something that comes
Mm.
easy out there. There are, in fact, about 80 bases, I think, on the entire continent, but it's a massive place. So 80 bases dotted around on that massive continent just are tiny, tiny specks, and you get that feeling of being tiny, which is different. Svalbard in itself, I mean, if you've been to Svalbard, I'm going there again in July. That's where
Mm.
we head off on our icebreaker to the North Pole in
Yes.
July. But yeah, Svalbard is that's got its sense of isolation and desolation. For me, that feels like a Wild West town. I felt when I
Yes.
went been to Svalbard, I feel like a cowboy. You're walking up the main street, and there's people with guns
Well,
because
yeah.
for protection from polar bears, and there's not a lot there, and just a few houses. And but
Yes,
then
it is. You're quite.
again, when you go up to the North Pole, you're again in that same different in terms of the
Mm.
desolation. I mean, there's nothing else. There's no one else.
And I imagine you need to be just as vigilant for polar bears up there as well.
Yeah, I mean, we are more so sort of on the way rather than when you get there. I mean, but
Okay.
when you get there, it's rare for polar bears to be that far north,
Oh, really?
actually at the North Pole.
Mm.
They do hang, I mean, they are hanging around not many degrees lower than 90 degrees, but it is rare. But we do have polar bear guards when we do the races up there.
Mm. Mm.
And yeah, you've got to be vigilant. You've got to be careful. Saw some amazing footage just today from one of the old mining towns up in Svalbard. I think it was up in Svalbard. I think it was one of the old Russian mining towns
Yeah.
where a polar bear was charging a guy, and he fired a couple of warning shots above the polar bear's head. Polar bear did made absolutely no difference, and then he drops the rifle, he runs, and he gets on his skidoo, and he's out of there.
Oh,
And they've got
no.
amazing footage. I've just seen it today.
Oh, wow.
And it's
Gosh.
just like, yeah, I mean, it's
Yes.
their environment, not ours.
Yeah.
Blimey.
And I'm really glad he didn't shoot it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
there's no need for that. You
no,
shouldn't be putting yourself in a position where you need to shoot them.
exactly.
Mm.
How does you said it was on the races are on sort of 5 to 10K loops. Is it what in Antarctica? I think you've probably got a 10K loop. Is
Yes.
the ground like at the North Pole? It looks like there's quite a lot of water around, so it must be.
Yeah, so we do two different editions of the North Pole Marathon. So we've got the Spring North Pole, which hasn't actually happened since 2018, but we keep trying. And we've got the summer North Pole, which has happened, which we did last year, the year before, and we're going again this year because we've developed now going up on this icebreaker. So yeah, conditions are different. Who knows? I mean, sea ice. How long is sea ice going to be around in July at the North Pole?
Mm.
I don't think predictions are good. So maybe we'll go earlier in the year, but at the moment, what we do is we go up there, get to the North Pole. From above, it looks less stable than it is. So I think sometimes you can get an image of, oh, there's a lot of open water. It's not open water, but you see where they get the light patches and then the patches of snow. Quite
Right.
often, those patches will still be a meter of ice,
Right.
but they look like pools of water.
Mm.
Oh yeah, it looks like they're
Yeah,
ice floe hopping.
yeah. I mean, when we're up at the North Pole, we wear life jackets now. So they wear uninflated life jacket. So all the runners will be wearing that in case you got to be safe.
Mm.
So, safety is paramount, really. So if there was any weak points, or if something tragic did happen, at least they've got their life jacket. I mean, we do organise polar plunging as well. So maybe an unauthorized polar plunge.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't
How,
understand the difference between people saying you shouldn't ice jump in icy water because you might die to people doing polar plunges. I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of jumping in icy water, and I don't. I mean, uh, I think you might die doing everything.
Mm.
I I'm a control. I mean, I tend to try and get. I mean, obviously, I tend not to dive into icy water too much, but I climb into an ice bath as much as humanly possible. I'm a Wim Hof instructor, so um, I I am a big fan of the ice and contrast therapy and saunas and things like that. So um, yeah, I.
Mm.
so how far away from the North Pole are you actually when you do the race?
No, we're at the North Pole,
Yeah, so there's in my head the North
but
Pole is like
but
there's one central thing, so you like running round and round it. How,
yeah, there is. I mean, I suppose the North Pole, and also the North Pole is very, very difficult to stand at. So what we do is we go to the North Pole, get off the boat. The captain will go, "We are here at the North Pole." You get off the boat, and then everyone wanders around for a while finding the North Pole
right.
with their GPS, because not only because once you're standing on the ice, you're moving because the ice cap is moving,
Right.
and that can move quite a distance over a day, actually, and probably more so when it's beginning to melt
Mm.
than back in April when it's 2 meters thick and solid all the way around. But even then, there are tides going on underneath it. I mean, there's just there's no land for a long way, and that ice cap is moving around. So when you look at the GPS of someone running a marathon at North Pole round loops, it's not just one circle or one weird looking route. It's one, and then it's a spiral,
Like a
and then it's a
spirograph.
spiral, because by the time they get to the next lap, it's moved 2 meters and another 2 meters. So they're quite fun, actually. I've seen people make T-shirts out of them, out of
Oh
their race
yeah.
route and their GPS, and it's I
Fun.
like it. It's quirky,
Mm.
but you're quite right. It's sort of there isn't a pole. If you stuck a pole, obviously you're going to stick a ceremonial pole in and dance around it. Um, 5 minutes later, it's not going to be at the North Pole anymore. So that's where we set up the course, and we run around. And we certainly do things where we, run around the world and put a pole in at 90 degrees and hit every time zone in 5 seconds just by running around it once. All those quirky things.
That's fun, isn't it? Yeah.
It
Oh.
is.
That's blown my mind a little bit.
Oh, Robin, are you a bit shattered? Were you hoping that Santa Claus's house would be there with the little sign saying North
I was,
Pole?
I was waiting for him to bring that up.
He's there. He's there. I mean, he's always there. But we can't give away too many secrets. You have to come up and find out.
No, I didn't see it in the itinerary, so I was
No,
getting.
no, 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 no. We can't go publicizing that stuff.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Oh
So,
wow, it does
how,
sound so much fun.
so do you sell out for the North Pole Marathon?
Yeah, I mean, North Pole, North Pole Summer Edition is a relatively new thing.
Mm.
So we are still, working on that. We're working on different ways of doing it. We love going up on the icebreaker. This ship is just something else as well. But the way we do it, we're not going to sell out. We're not, we've got 200 spots potentially. We're not taking 200 people to the North Pole. So actually what we're doing, we're also organizing a North Pole forum, and we take scientists up with us, and we take lecturers. So we organize it. So not everyone who's coming wants to run a marathon at the North Pole. Some people just want to go to the North Pole and enjoy the sights, do various other things. So we've got other things going on as well.
Oh, that's interesting. That
Is
makes
it,
a lot more sense, I suppose, doesn't it?
yeah, is it your ship then? Have you chartered the ship?
We've chartered the ship. Yeah, absolutely. So it's
Yeah.
the Commandant Charcot, Ponant Charcot. It's a mega ship. I'd love to be able to tell you the statistics of what fuels it and what powers it, but it's all very special and modern, and much more sort of green energy being used rather than a sort of,
Diesel engine.
4 million tons of coal being piled in, or a big diesel engine. It's not that. It's. I'd like to say hydrogen power, but I'm not sure I'd be correct there. So.
Yeah, I think the ship we were on was, I think there's sort of the way they use water to propel somehow as well,
All right.
or steering. That might be just the steering rather than the actual forward propulsion. But yeah, yeah, definitely.
I was having a look at the prices because I immediately just saw marathon. How much does the marathon cost? And saw that the cheapest was 45,000 euros.
Yeah.
But then you look up and you see it's for 2 weeks. I love how on the schedule it says July 9th to July 13th, navigating through the sea ice.
It is a 2 week luxury cruise, and
Yeah.
I think that, although those numbers are high for anything, I'm not
Yeah.
going to sit here and pretend they're not. But I had no idea really until I started doing this, looking at cruise prices and what people pay to go and
Mm.
just sit and eat, and I think it's actually really good value. What they get and the luxury that they're living in, and I know the place where we're going
Mm.
is pretty special. I'd much rather do a cruise like that than anywhere else in the world, actually. Um, Even Antarctica. I know the company also organizes cruises down in Antarctica, but where we go in Antarctica and landing on the mainland and landing in on a blue ice runway, just for me
Mm,
that's exciting.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I bet.
it soon explains itself, doesn't it, really? I
Yeah.
can't imagine the scale of trying to put something like this together. It must have taken a long time. Like, when did the North Pole Marathon start? Do you know?
Well, the first North Pole Marathon, again, I'm the worst person to speak to for statistics. Let's somewhere back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
I first went in 2008, and then again in 2009, and then in back in 2018, and then since we're going 23, 24, 25. So um, it's been going a while. The whole concept started with, I believe, a base that was run both with Russians and Ukrainians, that gets built every year, or has had up until sort of 2018, been built every year, called Camp Barneo, which I think was a play on the word Borneo, because the North Pole couldn't have been any more different to Borneo.
Yeah.
But again, a base where they would set up an ice runway. So parachuters would fly. They would fly over the ice cap. They would have a look with all sorts of radar and all sorts of things, looking for a chunk of ice big enough to build a runway on, and big enough and stable enough. And then when they thought they'd identified one, they fly over the ice cap with 10 parachuters and a tractor, which they would then throw out of the aeroplane. And those guys would just land on the ice cap in the middle of absolutely nowhere, and maybe with a barrel of oil to keep them warm. And they would start cutting a runway into the 2 meter thick sea ice. And then at some point, once they'd sort of tested that, some brave pilot would have to turn up in a Antonov kind of, cargo plane and decide, right, let's see if this works.
Oh my God.
And that's how it works, and that's how people would fly in to ski the last degree. So all North Pole expeditions would go from Camp Barneo there, and that's where we've operated the North Pole Marathon for a number of years, and we will continue to try. Logistics and politics at the moment are getting in the way of that,
Mm.
but that won't stop us. So we'll continue to try and run the spring edition and continue with the summer edition for as long as we can.
So it's remade every year, essentially.
Oh, that ice runway
Yeah.
lasts for 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
It's 3.5 weeks maximum. The
Mm.
season is very short because they can't really start till it gets light, and they can't find a suitable ice flow till it gets light. Once it starts getting light, that's when the degradation starts to happen. So it all starts to melt. So, from in between April and July, well, you've seen footage of what it looks like in July. You're not landing a runway, you're not landing a plane on that then. It's really only stable for 3 weeks maximum, uh,
Wow.
in order to land a plane on, it's a heavy plane. It's
Mm.
bringing 50, 60 people in with it. So,
Gosh, I mean, as a runner, you've got to have a certain spirit of adventure to say, we're going to take this plane and we're going
yeah,
to land on a
it's,
ice floe that's been cut
it's,
out.
yeah,
Ah,
it's madness to think of it, and it's madness to think that that was one of the first things that I thought that would be exciting after having run the New York Marathon in 2006. I was immediately, so it wasn't like, oh, let's look for the majors. It was like, let's look for something majorly exciting.
no.
And I ended up just, yeah, doing all sorts of crazy stuff. But it is, and there are a lot of like-minded people out there.
Mm.
I'm sure you guys have encountered many of them. But there's a lot of people out there who are wanting to push their own boundaries. When again, I said, we're not reinventing the wheel. I'm not a North Pole explorer. I'm not a South Pole explorer.
Mm.
I'm on my own adventure, so I am my own explorer. And hopefully, what we're doing is we're. I mean, I do believe, and it sounds totally cliche, but making people's dreams come true. I know when I see the look on people's faces when they get off the plane in Antarctica, or when when they're up on the boat in the North Pole, that's super cool because you delivered what you said you were going to deliver.
Yeah.
And that everyone's nervous. Everyone's nervous. I don't think there's anyone that goes up there or goes down to Antarctica that one doesn't have nerves about the trip, that two doesn't think, wow, what's it like running on landing a plane on a blue ice runway? That's terrifying and scary in itself. Three, is it going to be as beautiful as they say it is? All these things. I make wild promises to people all the time. You say, just believe me, trust me. You can have, give me your money back if you don't like it. So, and and it's delivered. I mean, I say I deliver it, but it's not me delivering it. Nature delivers.
Mm.
It's because it's jaw dropping.
I'm
Have
going to
you?
ask a really mundane question here, but do people sort of feel the pressure? Do you find they train more? Do you find it's more important to them that they complete whatever race that they're attempting? And do you have many DNFs? And what on earth do you do with someone that's turned their ankle?
I would say we have very, very few DNFs. I think it means an awful lot to people to
Mm,
do the event once they've turned up to the event.
yeah.
Uh, Kind of whatever it takes attitude. I don't know if people, I think people do train maybe more.
Mm,
They worry about the training more. And I say just train like you would for a normal event. There's nothing particularly more difficult or more, obviously it's conditions, it's weather conditions, which are again difficult to train for, to try and go and find those conditions.
yeah.
I remember my first North Pole marathon. I was nervous, and I went and booked a flight to Tromsø, and without really doing the research properly. And although it was snowy in Tromsø, it was +5 when I went.
Oh.
Totally pointless. I had all this gear, and I was just drenched in it. So totally pointless. I went and went and stood around in my local butcher's freezer for
I was going to
half.
say you get heat chambers for training, but do you
Yeah,
get
and they have started
chambers?
doing, there are cold chambers too. So
Are there?
we've had a number of people in recent years who have gone and done the specific training at various normally university based. And normally, quite often, if people write the right thing and say the right thing, they don't have to end up paying a fortune for it, because the universities like a bit of publicity and what have you. So just, I would say to people, get in touch. I mean, I did the same when um, my youngest son and I went to the Marathon des Sables when he was 16, and I thought, well, maybe it might be interesting for you to have a bit of hot weather, to see what it's like in the heat. I had no interest in training myself. I'm not a trainer. I sort of like go out and see whether I can do it. But we went and we contacted the people at Chichester in Sussex University and went in their heat chamber. I mean, it's fairly undignified. The way they take your temperature is old school.
I've heard that. Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think there are some places you can do it where you swallow something, um, but that wasn't the option.
Yeah, you'd have to pay for that one.
But yeah, I think some people pay for this other option. But
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Oh, gosh, isn't it funny?
I know.
Oh, wow. Gosh, I just can't imagine it.
No.
I mean, I think there's more events now that are popping up in the Arctic or in
Yeah.
extreme places. Do you
I see them getting more and more popular, and I see more and
mm,
more normal people taking part. I mean, it was only ever been normal people that take part, as far as I'm concerned.
mm,
There's the odd elite-ish athlete that comes along, but not necessarily anyone superhuman. And it's not,
no.
these are not things just reserved for the sort of Goggins of this world,
Mm,
or anyone else that we look at and think, oh, I couldn't do that. I think people are looking at these things and things and thinking, I could do that. I'll give it a go. If
yeah.
10 can do it, I can do it. So it's,
Do you
yeah.
think it's
And I
it's
would say
another
that to people.
avenue of a instead of people maybe going on to ultras, they've done a marathon or two marathons and they're like, oh, I'm liking this. What's my next challenge?
Hmm.
Instead of necessarily going longer,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people we get are
extreme.
a lot of people have finished the Abbott majors, so they've done all majors.
Mm,
They're going to have probably a couple more to add to that in the next couple of years, I think, with
Yeah.
Cape Town coming online and Sydney coming online and various other options. So once they've done the majors, they think, what next? And yeah, they don't necessarily think longer. They're thinking, how can we incorporate it? They've done a lot of travel. I think people like to travel the world like that. It's rather than just going on holiday,
yeah.
which a lot of
It
people
gives a
do.
purpose to
It's
the
incorporating
yeah.
the holiday and incorporating that with their hobby.
Mm,
So it's a great way to travel. And I think some people are put off by oh, a marathon. We do half marathons. People want to come along and do a half marathon at North Pole. Absolutely fine. Come and do 10K. We're not, it's not a judgy community, and
mm.
we're not a community of, oh, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. It's like we just want people to do their best.
No cut-offs. What's the longest time someone's taken?
Well, my longest time at the North Pole is well over 12 hours.
You're
Um,
kidding.
yeah, no, but I think I had a sleep I had a little sleep, little snooze
Wait a minute,
halfway
that's a
through.
multi-day.
Well, yeah, I suppose it does. Yeah, I mean, the North Pole multi-day ultra. Um, yeah, they've got a lot of time down in Antarctica,
Mm,
especially at the North Pole. And even when we do 7 marathons, 7 continents, 7 days, the World Marathon Challenge, they get 8 hours per continent.
mm,
So it's very accessible.
mm,
As I say, if I can do it, there's a lot of people who can do it.
mm.
I'm not saying it's easy. That's all right for one marathon, and then it's okay possibly for a second. By the time you get to the third, if you are someone who's taking 7 or 8 hours for a marathon, you're going to be crying. Um, there'll be tears at some point, but then
Yeah,
there'll be tears of happiness at the end.
that's
But
funny.
going back to what you were saying about DNFing, I mean that was the original part of the question. Yeah, people find a way, and people never had anyone seriously injured, but there are people who've had to. We've a couple of times we've had people drop down from a marathon to a half marathon, and they've got done what they can do.
Mm.
But there's a huge number. We're not looking for any glory in, we're not the world's toughest foot race, and we're not sort of, this is how many people didn't finish.
Yeah.
We're not the Barclay Marathons. We're trying to encourage people to get the job done and make that happen.
I bet you have amazing medals.
There's some good bling. Um, yeah, people like it.
I like a good bit of
I
bling.
personally am still amazed that how much people like the bling because I know where my medals are. And
Mm.
they're they're in a Tupperware, you know,
Well, yes, but they
box
are now.
somewhere.
But when you're 70, I bet
Ah,
you'll be getting them
yeah,
out and you'll be polishing them and you'll be going, I remember this happened at this
yeah.
place and look at this little Johnny, this I used to do this.
We do
That's
like
what they
bling. I mean, it's sort of, and there's fun you can have with the seven continents ones, and every marathon they run, they get one, and then they put it
they
all together,
link
and then
in.
they get a beast of one at the end, and they get to join the seven marathon, the seven continent. You can't see that seven continents club, and
Well,
all
a
the
very
sort of
elite club.
oh yes, it's all about elite. And then the Grand Slam Club, which is seven continents and the North Pole. Um, but which is bizarre. I mean, I do like belonging to that club because there's not many things I feel elite at in my life. But if I look at it, I am quite unique. I have run a marathon on every continent. I run a marathon at the North Pole a few times, and I've rode the Atlantic twice. So but that was never enough. It's strangely enough. I mean, I think there's probably a number of people in the ultra running and running world who are looking for something,
Mm.
trying to find themselves there, I say. I certainly, I gave up drink and drugs age 25, but and took up these events and doing those kind of things. And I'd say you're not really, well, I can't speak for anyone else. I talk for myself. Was I cured from my addiction? Or had I really found myself? What was I trying to prove to people when I was taking drinking and doing drugs? What was I running away from, or what wasn't I facing up to? And even when I'd done seven marathons on seven continents in 7 days and a marathon at North Pole, I didn't think I was good enough. So there was this kind of, I mean, that's just crazy. Good enough for what? Good enough for who? And it's taken me a little bit longer. I'm kind of getting there now.
Mm.
I think I realized during my second Atlantic row that this was silly.
Yes.
It was just silly. What are you doing, Ted? Who
Yeah.
are you trying to prove things to? And
Have a
then
firm
I
word with
realized I was probably trying to just prove things to myself and maybe just accept that I'm all right. So, but it took me on an amazing journey, and I wouldn't change any of that, so I wouldn't change any of those adventures because I'm absolutely love them all. The people I've met, the friendships I've made, the connections I've made around the world, the
Mm.
connections I make with all the people on the events now. I'd love to see them, So at the booth at the London Marathon, a face would just appear. It's like, oh, it's Scott from Antarctica. Or it's Scott from Antarctica. It was Scott. It was Scott from Antarctica. But it's just sort of like,
Yeah.
oh, just you do see these faces, and it brings back memories of great times in great places.
It's exploration, isn't it? Like you said, make dreams come true, and
Mm.
I've long dreamed of going to Easter Island as
Ah,
so to see that was just an option to go and do what I love, running,
mhm.
and go to Easter Island is incredible, and I had no idea that even today, I know there's extreme marathons around everywhere, and there's like
Yeah.
jungle marathon and other ones that the
Mhm.
other company do, and what you guys do. But I didn't realize that you could visit places quite this exotic that and
Special.
far
Yeah, I
removed
mean,
from
I
society.
suppose we are looking for places that people are going to want to go to, and that people are, as I said before, people are incorporating travel with
Mm.
running, so they're running for a purpose. I mean, a lot of people are doing these things for charity to raise money as well, but they're getting to get, if you're going to go to Easter Island, well, let's go to Easter Island and run a marathon. So, yeah, that's the third different location for our version of the volcano marathon now, I think. So, it started off in the Atacama Desert, then we went to Pucón in Chile the year before last, and then last year was the first one in Easter Island, and then I think we've got about 80 runners in Easter Island this year at the moment. So that's in July. I think we go to Easter Island and then I get back for 2 days and then I'm off to the North Pole. which is ridiculous.
Wow, I feel so sorry for you.
Well, it is. I sit here as the luckiest man alive, but I kind of made my own luck in many ways, and I am a glorious. If someone said, write down a job description for the ideal job for you, this is it.
Mm, mm.
Ah, amazing.
What's your sort of your main customer? I mean, are they all truly global, or I mean, are they more
I would
American?
say we get lots of Americans. We have Brits. We got people from all over. I think in um, Antarctica last year, I think we had something like 25 different nationalities represented.
Okay,
So
yeah.
out of 60 people on the
Mm,
plane, so that's pretty good.
mm.
Yeah, it is truly global. Who are they? I think it's a weird one because I think everyone assumes that they're all super rich CEOs, and they're not. There's a lot of what I would class as normal people, whatever normal people is, but there are teachers, there are
Yeah.
ex-military people, there are present military people, there are, I don't know. So this is obviously it's tough to raise the money and find the money to do things, but
Mm.
it's amazing how people will find a way.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
and quite often they'll find a way that benefits lots of people. So because they're doing something extreme, it's a tough old world out there for the person who wants to get a charity place for London or New York, for instance, and wants to raise 2 grand because it's really tough to raise 2 grand. And because no one wants to sponsor anyone for running a marathon anymore.
No.
Because, well, lots of people, what's running a marathon? I mean, obviously you'll get family and friends who are going to dig in, but there's a lot of people, there's that sort of, they're getting charity fatigue.
Mm.
And I think for me, when I started out, that's why I started looking for extreme events, was to look, I said, well, no one's going to sponsor me to do Berlin. So I did Berlin on a charity place, but pay the money myself, and then wait until I'm doing something extreme. And then people go, holy, wow, oh yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
And luckily have, thanks to the generosity of many, 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 many people, have raised, I don't know, £250,000 over the years doing these events. But, so there's a lot of good that can come out of it. And people find a way of making it happen for them.
Yeah.
I'm
Had a
really
random
pleased to hear.
thought.
Yeah. I'm really
Sorry.
pleased to hear that it's normal people and not super rich CEOs.
No,
That is the immediate assumption. I'll be honest, it was me as well. That was my immediate thought.
and I think that's natural. I think, of course, it is because I think that's the natural reaction. And at the booth, when I'm again going back to last week at the London Marathon. I'm at the booth, but we've got the prices up there. They're on the board. They're
Mm.
there for people to see. There's nothing to hide. It's
Yeah.
we actually the margins are very slim. It's not about becoming multimillionaires here. It's about the quality. I mean, I just love my job. I'm happy to say, hand on heart, I don't make very much money, but I could not be happier with what I do. And the reason our events are a lot more accessible than many other ways of getting to these places. So, if you want to go to Antarctica and go to mainland Antarctica, you won't get onto mainland Antarctica cheaper than flying with us. And because we're taking a number of people and because we're not being greedy with margins,
Mm.
we're actually making it more accessible for people. But it's perfectly natural. I mean, yeah, everyone's going to say, oh, it's okay for you. It's just for the super rich. And I get that too.
Mm.
I understand that. I'm afraid that's life.
It's good for you
Yeah.
to dispel that here anyway.
Yeah.
I'll be carrying that mantle now.
Great. And it's brilliant because I hear the stories you hear from people in everyone's journey. are also everyone's so unique and everyone's so remarkable and when you find maybe I'm a judgmental git, but I'll look at someone and make up my own story for them, and it's not until I've spent a day or two chatting to them on the ice and out in the out in Antarctica that you find out who they really are and what's made them tick and how they got to Antarctica and what brought them there. And one, I'm thinking, oh God, I wish I hadn't been such a judgmental git, just in my head, but two, remarkable what's brought people there, from and out of quite often a lot of tragedy, and things like that.
Interesting. Well, I mean, yeah, that is fascinating. So what is there one website for all of this adventure to go and
Yeah,
find
I
more?
mean, I'm not sure. I think if you went to Runbuk, Runbuk, runbuk.com, maybe. That's our overarching sort of website company, and that should have details for World
It
Marathon
does.
Challenge,
It does.
North
It
Pole
does.
Marathon, Antarctic Ice Marathon. So RUNBUK,
Yeah,
Runbuck.
there you go. Right.
Um,
So if you're listening, get on there
take a
um,
look.
and
Take a
start dreaming and
Oh
saving.
yeah. I think sow the seed,
Yeah,
manifest.
yeah.
These things have a strange way of making themselves happen.
Life is about experiences, so do it, she says.
Yeah, make sure you're still doing it in like 15 years, and then I'm there.
I'll be there. I'll be there. No doubt about
Yeah,
it.
Great.
yeah. I just need to find someone who's popped
The
their
next
clogs and
stage.
left me in their will without me
You
realizing.
will. You will.
But thank you, Ted. Really appreciate you talking to us tonight. It's been really interesting.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me, and sorry for being so late.
Oh, no, no, it's fine. Bob and I witter on quite happily.